Welcome to the I Do Wedding Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Nina Adio, a social media marketing expert specializing in the wedding industry. Each week, we'll explore the strategies, stories, and insider tips that help wedding professionals thrive. You'll hear solo episodes filled with actionable advice for social media and inspiring conversations with esteemed wedding industry guests. Thank you for tuning in and letting this podcast be a part of your day. Let's get started. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the I Do Wedding Marketing Podcast. How are we doing, everybody? We've been really rocking it here at the I Do Wedding Marketing Podcast. Some things changed this year. I think a lot of it has been, one, I got a podcast manager, and that has been such a relief to my life, knowing that I can have these great conversations with wedding pros and wedding experts, and then I can just pass it off to my manager, Patricia, who's going to take care of everything else, has made me really be able to be in the moment, welcome more guests without the stress, and bring more to you guys. Which brings me to the second part of why we've been in such a groove. It's because of you guys, the listeners and the guests. Listeners have recommended guests to me, and guests have gone on to recommend their colleagues to be on the show. And it has been such a blast. And it continues today with Nora Shiels, co-founder of Rock Paper Coin. We got a great topic, okay? Nora's going to be talking to us about how to protect yourself and your business when the SHIT hits the fan. All right, we all kind of experience, if you were working during COVID, you know what it was like dealing with your contracts during this time. Or maybe you have somebody who's review harassing you, or so many other things that can come up in the business. Rather than waiting till it comes up, Nora's going to talk about how we can be proactive about it. So Nora tells us in this episode her origin story, which you are really going to love, about how she started Bridal Bliss Inc., which then led to her starting Rock Paper Coin. Rock Paper Coin now brings together event professionals and couples to streamline the often daunting contract and invoice process, and Nora is there for support, knowledge, and input along the way. She uses what she's learned as a planner who produces upwards of 150 weddings a year with a team of over 30 women. And she uses this knowledge to help educate and inform others in the industry, which is what we are all about here at the I Do Wedding Marketing Podcast. Nora and the team at Rock Paper Coin were nice enough to give a referral code for those who start a Rock Paper Coin subscription as a result of this episode. So you'll want to check that out in the show notes, and we'll have all the ways you can be in touch with Nora there too. So let's take it away. Nora, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Where are you joining us from?
I am actually in Portland, Oregon, and it's snowing here today. Everyone's so excited.
Oh, we just have a slushy, wintry mix, but that's, I guess, slush is always here in New York.
We
It looks
usually
like,
get ice, so
yeah,
snow is exciting.
it's like a beautiful space you're coming from, and we both have mugs. I know
Yes,
mine's coffee. What do you have, Nora?
I do tea. I drink black tea with a little milk.
Ooh, beautiful, beautiful. Look, with the weather like it is, a cozy
Right.
tea is is nice to have. So I did an intro at the top of the show, but I really would love for everybody to hear in your own words, Nora, about Bridal Bliss, Rock Paper Coin, and how you got involved in the industry.
Sure. So I have been in the industry for many, many years. I actually always wanted to be a wedding planner growing up, and it wasn't really a well-known job at the time. It was like Mindy Weiss and Colin Cowie, and it was the big name celebs that would help out the celebrities, right? So in little Portland, Oregon, we didn't really have many planners, but I loved planning parties and being a part of celebrations. And I come from an Iraqi family that likes to throw big, fabulous events. And so I went off to college, and it was always my dream. And my senior year, I saw a little ad for a business plan competition. So I wrote up a business plan for Bridal Bliss and I ended up winning. And it gave me all of my startup funds right out of college. And so I moved home. And at that point, I'd worked at a florist, I'd worked at a bridal shop, and a couple other things, but I hadn't really planned a full wedding. I had planned events for the university, but I was not really a wedding planner, but I had nothing to lose. And so I started and I got my first couple clients and I loved it even more. And one thing led to another. And today the company spans between the whole Pacific Northwest. So we have teams in Oregon, Washington, and Bend, and do quite a few destination weddings as well. And it's been amazing. I love weddings so much. I love everything about it. But throughout the years, as times were kind of changing and things were digitizing, we were looking for a platform that helped kind of streamline our business. We did a big volume and there was a lot to kind of keep together. And we searched for software. We wanted to find software that was already out there that we could just use in our company. And we tried everything. Like you name it, we tried it. And there was something wrong with it, whether it was uber expensive, it wasn't attractive, our team didn't like it, like name it, there was a reason. So we decided to hire a developer to create software for just our team internally to use. And being super naive and having no idea how software works, we quickly realized that it's very expensive and it's very time consuming. So we kind of sat on it and we kept asking around to different trusted vendor friends, and everyone was like, I don't know of a platform that does that, but when you find it, let us know. And so a light bulb kind of went off, and that's how Rock Paper Coin was born. We are a software platform made specifically for the wedding and event industry. And we focus on, we're a full CRM. So we capture leads, we send contracts and invoices and proposals, we automate reminders, and we have really low processing fees, full free white glove onboarding, and just try to help support all of the event pros in our industry as much as we can. So beyond that, I'm a mom. I have two kids and a lot of family, and we live here in the Pacific Northwest.
Well, that was the best origin story ever because I've never had one that started with a business plan contest. Like, that is the
Isn't that
coolest thing
crazy?
ever. I mean, wow.
I didn't realize how lucky I was when it happened because truly, I don't think I would have done it otherwise. It was just, I had this opportunity and amazing parents that let me crash with them for a couple years. So I had, little expenses at the time and it could have gone either way. So thankfully it went the way that it did. And that was back in 2002. So it's been a few years.
And what's great is your co-founder of Rock Paper Coin,
Uh-huh.
Elizabeth, has been on the show, and in her episode, you guys will have to listen back. We learned how this didn't start as a family business, but became one, which is also just a great story in keeping weddings on trend.
Yes, I love it.
So, would you say, because what we're talking about today is protecting yourself and your business when the SHIT hits the fan. And was this something that, as a wedding planner by nature, you were focused on, or did it come as you got more involved on the business to business end with Rock Paper Coin?
I think it came about every time shit did hit the fan. You're like, oh gosh, how am I going to deal with this? And like the fact of the matter is that running a business, it has its perks, but it's also really, really hard at times. So, like outside of setting your own schedule and calling the shots and hopefully making good money and leading others, it's just not always smooth sailing. And at some point, something will go wrong. Hopefully, it's nothing big, but something's going to go wrong. It's the nature of the beast.
So, I guess we should talk about the most common thing that can go. Let's see if I guess it right. Is
Okay.
it reviews?
That 100%. I hear that all the time. You know, that gut punch.
Yeah.
when you read a negative review. And
Uh,
it's usually when you've like worked so hard for this person and it's so one-sided, and maybe there's a little truth to it and maybe there isn't, but seeing a bad review pop up, it can just stir up feelings of like unworthiness, resentment, anger, like so much frustration. And your first instinct is to kind of like give the person a piece of your mind and defend yourself. But you like absolutely cannot do that. You have to stop before typing up an emotion-fueled response and just consider how the feedback can be a valuable learning lesson. Like the world is not ending with a bad review. I promise. I've been the receiver myself, and life did go on. And people don't just get bored and leave bad reviews. Like there is a reason that they hopped online and took the time to write a bad review. So you have to kind of change the way you view the feedback. It's not necessarily that people are out to get you. Like maybe they are, and that's a horrible human being. But instead of taking it like so personally, I suggest, and this is hard to do, granted, I think it's important to kind of embrace it and take it as a lesson of how to better serve your clients or how to change your processes. Maybe something fell through the cracks that could have been avoided. And now that you know this was a problem, you can take that and turn it into a positive experience.
so I think also what I think about at least is that we're worried, A, that our future clients are going to see the bad
Yeah.
review, but also they're going to see how we respond to it. So, what
Yes.
advice do you have for that?
So I do, first of all, recommend that you respond. Don't just leave it. More often than not, I think people write bad reviews because they want to feel heard. And when they're ignored by the brand, it turns into like a worse problem. So maybe they tried to reach out before writing the review. More commonly than not, they have, and it hasn't gone the way that they wanted. And I'm not saying like, the customer is always right. You should stand up for yourself, but also don't avoid those hard conversations because they make you feel uncomfortable. So with the right approach, you can actually turn brand aversion into brand affinity by using those bad reviews as an opportunity to really nurture the client relationship. So people can see how you responded, whether it's apologizing or asking them to reach out directly. Having that conversation in the public eye, it also shows a commitment to the transparency and the quality of service. So even if you don't like win back the original reviewer, you'll earn the review or earn the approval of people reading it. So when you're responding, really think about people that are reading this. Obviously, you want to keep the reviewer happy as much as you can, but it's almost more about those other people and them seeing how well you took care of this person, how you responded. Being spiteful in your response is not a good look. And then I also recommend, I think that's a great opportunity to reach out to all your happy clients that haven't reviewed you yet and say, hey, would you mind just taking a second and make it easy? So send them direct links so they don't have to like Google it or anything. Send them a couple direct links and say, can you take a couple minutes and leave your feedback? And I'm not against asking friends and family to do it either. Sometimes bearing a bad review is not the worst thing in the world, especially if it's really kind of incriminating. And most sites will not let you just take them down unless you can prove they weren't a client or there's a couple other things. But it is a process and it takes time. So, until then, you want to make sure the people that see it are seeing it in a positive light.
And one last review question. I
Yeah.
have a venue I work with in specific that I'm thinking of a client, and they'll mention that people, when coming in for tours, will mention the bad reviews, and that they'll mention, well, your reviews say, the food isn't good or something
Yeah.
like that. How do you recommend people respond when it's in somebody's bringing up those bad
Yeah.
reviews?
Well, great that they've taken the time to read your reviews because that means that they're very interested in your space and it didn't bother them enough to make them cancel the tour. So they're interested enough. So first of all, do not bash the person that posted it. Leave them completely out of the picture. if something happened, own up to it. And you can tell them there was a really unfortunate circumstance. We've taken all measures to ensure it never happens again. We took care of that client and refunded whatever. So they're going to want to see the way you answer that question in a positive light and not being like, oh, that girl was so crazy. And even if she was, she probably was. But whatever it is, you have to be classy and present it and how you fix the situation and how you made it better and how she was happy when all was said and done.
Yeah, 10 out of 10, they were crazy.
I know.
I
You
love,
can't exceed expectations for every single person when you run a business. Some people are just not happy regardless of what you do. And it's such a shame because those are usually the people that you work hardest for and hurt the most. But, bad reviews, they're just as inevitable as good reviews. So don't let your emotions rule the situation. Just try to treat it as a blessing in disguise and use the feedback to your advantage moving forward.
and I love the mind shift you had about it, where rather than them getting worked up because a bad review was mentioned, or maybe you're afraid somebody's going to mention a bad review you kind of shifted it to be like, they still made the appointment. So this is
Yeah,
someone highly interested.
definitely. Close the deal.
So there's another level of review. Typically I'll
Yes.
see these on Facebook groups a lot, where it's the people, they're putting their experience, but then at the bottom it says, and I'm going to take legal action. Can we kind of pivot to when you get
Yeah.
to that level of a
I think a lot of people threaten with that. How many people actually do hire a lawyer and take it to that level? But again, if it's gotten to legal action, they've reached out. People don't just say, I'm so upset about this and taking legal action. They wait for the person to try to make it right. And if they don't, maybe they'll elevate it. But oh man, it's the worst feeling. I know what this feels like. That feeling in the pit of your stomach it's just the worst. So if you haven't set yourself up for success with your contract and other things in the background and you're dealing with a hostile situation, I actually think you should stop all communication and talk to an attorney immediately. So hopefully you have one that you can pick up the phone and call. Everyone, if you take one thing from this, it's that you need to have a rock solid contract in place before you do any work with the client. And it can be expensive, but it's way less expensive than having to deal with this situation after the fact. And there are some ways to make it easier and less expensive. You can buy template contracts. I actually really love the site. It's called Legally Set. And with the code RPC, you can actually get 20% off. But they have a lot of really great templates, contract templates for the wedding and event industry that you can download and then make your own. But even if you do that, I still recommend having a local attorney review it and make sure that it's all legally sound for your state because laws change from state to state. So you just want to make sure that you are covered. So talk to your attorney. That person should be communicating with the client or with the client's attorney from then on out. Yeah, having that contract in place is going to serve you, and it can also avoid this whole situation. So your contract should outline what's acceptable and what's not. So they probably can't take legal action if you have a good contract in place. But if you've screwed up, there is a chance, and then you have to try to make it right before it gets to this.
so is what you're saying essentially that they would have to work pretty hard, the client, to find that you did something you weren't, that was truly wrong based on your contract?
Yeah, they're going to have to prove that you didn't do what you promised to do. So if it's clearly outlined in your contract, which everyone has signed and that's time stamped and all of that, you're a lot more safe than if there's no paperwork in place or if it's just a contract that you wrote up yourself that might not hold up in the court of law. I also highly recommend using a site that allows for digital contract signature I have to plug rock, paper,
Yeah.
coin. Of course, I'd be remiss, but that's one of our services is that you can have templates or upload a new contract and send it along to a client to sign. But the protection is that we track our IP addresses. If there is a legal issue, we can prove that the person who signed is who they said they were. Whereas if someone's just signing a PDF and emailing it to you, it's just not going to hold up as well. So it's just that double layer of backup if you do need it when times are tough. But it's so rare. Honestly, it's so rare that legal action takes place, and it's a big deal if it does. So, protect yourself.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of it is having the peace of mind. One comes from experience of once you start to get in the industry, you see
Yeah.
people kind of unfortunately throw around that term, I'm taking legal action, and then it's kind of going to go away. But the
Yeah.
second peace of mind is knowing that you have that contract and those systems in place to protect you.
Right, right. And it's funny, you know how long somebody has been in business based on how long their contract is, because crazy things happen in this industry, and the little blurbs that people have in their contracts are so random and out of the ordinary sometimes. And you're always like, what happened for them to add that clause to their contract?
Yeah, it's
Um,
with the venues, you could tell the first person that uses glitter, that contract gets revised pretty quickly.
glitter, confetti, all the things. But those contracts really need to protect you from the unthinkable, even if it's things that, they might never happen, but they could. You just think about COVID. How many people were focused on their contract? A lot of them didn't cover acts of God, pandemics, government shutdowns, all of these things that are out of your control that greatly affected businesses. And a lot of wedding companies lost a lot of money because they were not protected by their contract.
Yeah, yeah, that really, I think, gave everybody that wake up call of reviewing it and checking. And you mentioned how people who are not as seasoned in their business may not have a formal contract. Are there any other areas that you think people haven't thought of to protect themselves?
Yeah, I think, well, in this industry, it's so important that we have a portfolio. So, one place is to have a photo release in your contract. Sometimes people don't want their photos to be utilized, and that can be a conversation after you send the contract. Typically, if their likeness is not in the photos or their guests, maybe it's detail shots or something, they're usually okay with it. So, it could be kind of a negotiation topic. Also, a harassment-free environment, which sounds so silly, but it's actually not that uncommon that people have to act on it. And this isn't just the couple harassing, let's say, for example, a planner. Maybe she's on site and a groomsman has drank too much and is being inappropriate, or maybe a vendor is acting inappropriately, or there's so many different ways that this could be used. And the fact of the matter is, any wedding vendor, anyone on site in meetings should be treated appropriately. And if someone is going to treat you inappropriately, you need to be able to get up and walk away without any recourse. So that's kind of the harassment free environment. I also like having a decision maker clause. Sometimes with weddings, there are so many people involved, different family members, the couple, and sometimes they don't all agree. So having a decision maker clause, like the last person to make the decision, is really helpful, because if they can't agree on anything, you can just throw your hands up and be like, okay, well, Jenny is the decision maker here. So what would you like to do?
That's a pro tip for
Um,
brides. More so, they
yes,
like the brides need to seek out planners who have that.
exactly. And then I also think there should be a ghosting clause. So if someone doesn't respond to you in a timely manner, your contract should be null and void and nothing should be refunded, because you can't really do your job if you don't have the details. If you're a photographer just expected to show up at a wedding without times and places, you can't do that. If you're a florist and you don't have final counts a week before the wedding, you can't place the order. There's so many reasons. And there's reasons for ghosting, and of course it can be flexible. Sometimes there's been a death in the family or a reason why someone has kind of disappeared for a while. But, sometimes people break up or sometimes things happen. And so this kind of protects you because if they don't get back for 30 days or however long your clause is, their contract is null and void and you keep all of the payments.
I love that. Even as a service provider, I love it because when you stop hearing from people, it makes completion of
Right,
work impossible or difficult.
right, right. So, yep, the contract's so important. There are just so many little
Yeah.
clauses now, and some of them are vendor specific too. So, I would definitely talk to an attorney. I'm not giving any legal advice. This is just my feedback as a past planner.
Well, so we went into kind of how we can mentally protect ourselves in terms of reviews, and we went how
Mhm.
we can protect ourselves with contracts. Now, how can we protect ourselves financially?
Yes, that's a good question, especially this year in 2025 when a lot of people are reporting less than typical bookings and a dwindling banking account. So, if business is not going well, obviously things have changed the last several years, and burying your head in the sand does little more than make you more anxious and truly impede your ability to see or hear what's going on. So, you can't just close your eyes and hope it's going to go back to normal and hope just doing the same old thing is going to make changes. So it's always better to know if there is a problem because you can either fix it yourself or get help from professionals that can help you. So if your bookings are down or you're feeling the effect of weddings kind of slowing or evening out over the post-COVID rush, you have to deal with it immediately before it becomes a problem. So there are lots of different ways to improve your bottom line now. Like if you need money quickly, there are a lot of different ways to do it. I think the easiest is to bring in more profit from the clients that you currently have. So, what are add ons that you can offer them, even if you're hiring somebody to do whatever it is? So, maybe for a photographer, you could offer another family session or a trash the dress session or something like that. Maybe it's something that they've never considered, but once you pitch it to them, they'll be in on it. Or as a planner, maybe you try to offer, additional services for the rehearsal dinner or something, or a bridal shop tries to get them in for a dress preservation kit. So you already have the client, you already have the attention. So how can you get them to spend more with you? That's one way. Also, cutting back on labor. Labor is one of the biggest expenses for service industries. If you are able to cut back on labor a little bit and maybe utilize more software or automation, ChatGPT can do so many things for you today. So just cutting back there, it's not only going to cut back on the hours that you're spending on these people, but it will cut back on payroll taxes and all those surprise and delights that you need to do for them and all of the little costs that go into employees. And also check with your accountant or your attorney about whether you should have employees or independent contractors. I know it's a hot topic and different states allow for different things, but employees are going to end up costing you more than independent contractors. So follow the laws, but really check that out because it could help you out a little bit. Also, your marketing and advertising. If you're spending money on all of that, really review your ROI to make sure that it's serving you. Sometimes people get stuck in a rut advertising in the same places, and it's more to be seen by their like other vendors in the industry. Like, I'm still important. I have the highest slot on whatever website, but it's not actually bringing you any business or it's pulling in fake leads or something like that. So be careful where you're spending your advertising dollars. And this is a little trickier because a lot of these are year-long commitments. So you might not see any money in your pocket from that immediately, but for the next year, it could save you. So really be strategic on where you're spending money on advertising.
Advertising is such it's complex because it changes so rapidly in the
Right.
industry, right? Where what was doing well, for marketing and advertising 2 years ago is now totally different today.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. And if you're not on social media, stop what you're doing and get on there because It's a time suck, but it is technically free and your clients are on there. So whether it's Instagram or TikTok, it's worth the time. But I also think networking, which sounds backwards, but networking right now is really important because you will be top of mind whenever another vendor has a potential referral. They'll be like, oh my gosh, I just was talking with Nina the other day and she needs some bookings for 2025. So I'm going to send this client her way. But clients are much more likely to book you if they've received a personal recommendation. So that networking will really help you with bookings, but it's also just going to be strengthening your relationships with other vendors. So you might not see a return immediately, but when they do have someone to send over, they will. Or, if you need something last minute, there's been some sort of emergency, you have people you can reach out to, and you're really building a community and helping each other, which in turn can turn into bookings, but it's also just mentally stimulating and helpful for the industry as a whole.
Do you have any favorite places for networking, whether it's in person or virtual?
Yeah, there are quite a few, and a lot of them are vendor specific, so they're a little niche. But I really love the Emerge Event Collective. Full disclosure, I'm on the board there, but it is an online networking group. So there's people all over the country. Sarah Roshan is a photographer that started it. She's based out of Colorado, but they have a lot of online networking events, but they also have in-person ones. So it's really fun to be able to chat with people over Zoom, but then meet them in person and really support each other. And what I love about it is it's not cliquey. Everyone is truly there to meet other people. It's backed with kindness and help and respect. So it's just a really great group of people, and they're always taking on new members. So that one's called Emerge Event Collective. I think for newer event pros that are kind of just getting their foot in the door, Wedding MBA is a great place to learn a lot quickly and meet a lot of services and also a lot of like-minded vendors. So I think there's like 3 to 5,000 people that go to that. So it's a massive, I think that's probably one of the biggest industry conferences, but Rock Paper Coin goes every year and we meet so many great people there.
There's a place to meet. It's in Vegas, right?
Yes. So whatever happens in Vegas.
Yeah. Will you be,
So
do you know if you'll be speaking there this year?
yes, I will be speaking there, which is always fun, and we'll have a booth there as well.
Oh, great, great. I can't wait to see what you and Elizabeth have to share
Yeah.
while there and to see your setup. Very exciting. How can, Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. I have just a couple more
Yeah, yes,
suggestions for
go
bringing
for it.
more money in quickly. So for your invoicing, make sure that you automate payment reminders. Sometimes people will book a client and they'll forget to invoice them for the second or third or fourth payment. And then it's super late and you have to send a late invoice when you could have just had that money in your bank. So different platforms, Rock Paper Coin does this. You can set installments and it'll automatically notify your client when a payment is due, and they can also set it up for auto pay. So their money automatically goes into your account whenever due dates come up. And then review your expenses. Things have gone up drastically in the last couple of years. If you haven't raised your prices, you probably need to. You absolutely need to. Actually, everything has gone up from eggs to toilet paper to everything in between. So really do a deep dive on your expenses and make sure that you are not getting paid pennies on the dollar because that's not good for anyone.
So one question I had about this, and really because we led into it talking about kind of bookings being slow,
Mhm.
how can someone, what's a good way to tell, like, is this the industry or is it me?
It is 100% the industry. Every single event pro I have talked to in the last year has said bookings are down. So don't don't get depressed about it because I think it's a lot worse if it's just you. It's truly the industry as a whole. And there are all kinds of theories about why it is. I don't know what's right or what's wrong. The one that I'm kind of buying into is that the average relationship, I can't remember who reported this, but the average relationship from meeting to marriage is 4 years. So 4 years ago was kind of the beginnings of COVID when a lot of people weren't meeting new people. So there's a bit of a delay in marriage. And just the marriage numbers have gone down over the years. I don't think that accounts for such a drastic dip that we've had, but I'm really hoping for 2026 to be the year that it really evens out. So we shall see.
Yeah. With that being said, if somebody's relating to what you said, what is one thing you recommend they do now, whether it's just to feel better or something proactive in their business they can do?
There are lots of things. First of all, there is no shame in asking for help. Reaching out to your frienders and just saying, I'm super slow this summer. Do you have any areas that I can help you? Or do you have any potential clients you can send my way? There is no shame in that. And I actually think people respect you for being honest about it. Also, save an emergency fund. Hopefully, you've been doing this over the years when times were good. But keeping up with that, even when things are slower, is going to be important just in case it continues longer than expected. And then also controlling the narrative, especially when we're going back to reviews and all of these different things. And you don't want to hear people saying, oh, this planner that used to do hundreds of events only has 10 this year. You can really control it in the back end through social media and through your relationships where you come out the champion instead of the other way around. And then getting your systems in place. This is the best time to get your systems in place when you're not inundated with all of your clients and being so busy. So figure out your CRM. If you're not happy with it, switch. Figure out your bookkeeping, figure out your standard operating procedures and your SEO and all of those things that get put on the back burner. And there are people that do this for their full-time job. So you can hire somebody to come in and help you get those set up. You can hire an SEO specialist. It's not crazy expensive. I do recommend hiring someone that specializes in the wedding industry just because there's so many intricacies there. But, even a virtual assistant can save you so much time. They will cost less than a full-time employee, and you can use them kind of as needed. So that's what I would do now.
Such wonderful advice from just beginning to end. How can our listeners follow you and stay in touch with what you're doing?
Yes, follow us on Instagram. We're at Rock Paper Coin and at Bridal Bliss NW.
Wonderful, wonderful. And will you be doing other speaking events this year between now and Wedding MBA, you think?
I'm still trying to figure out what they are, but yes, and they'll all be on our social media. So take a
Great.
peek. Probably a couple this summer and maybe a couple more in the fall. So stay tuned. I love to travel though, so it's always fun.
Oh, good, good. So look out for Nora, follow her. I'll put all the links mentioned through the episode and where to find her in the show notes below. Thanks for being here, Nora.
Thanks, Nina. Great to see you.